Yeah, welcome everybody to another wonderful session of Holistic Conversations. Is your host DK, and I'm just here to do actually a part two of the Simon Ekpa arrest, win or loss for Biafra. You see, I'm doing a part two because of the feedback I've been getting from people. A lot of people are saying they don't really understand if I'm against Simon Ekpa, I'm defending his people. Or am I on the side of those who are saying he's not really defending his people, but he's a criminal who is causing violence against his own people? Now, I want you guys to understand the perspective of holistic conversation, right? We are here to throw out the questions from different angles to the discourse of the Biafra issue and Simon Ekpa's personality, and most important to me, relevance to Igbos and their problem. So is he behind violence in the eastern Nigeria? Is he the one directing violence at his people, or is he directing it at the Nigerian army as it is claimed, or are they doing both? Includes, and is the Nigerian army also targeting them, his foot soldiers, and fighting them as well as attacking the people? These are questions we would some of it will answer, some of this will leave our viewers to answer as well. So what I want to do in this particular session is to give you my actual conclusion, what I was trying to say. And I'm sure you guys didn't even really, there were some things were taken out, there was a lot of studio distractions. But I want to tell you something, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. First of all, people are saying that Simon Ekpa's arrest is going to restore peace in the East. Some other people of the school of thought saying that his arrest is going to provoke even more people who are either as angry and ready to fight as he is, or even worse than him, to come out. So therefore, they're saying if they think his arrest is going to bring peace, things are about to get even worse. Right. So then I come in to say that this man that everybody is making a fuss about, to say the whole place is going to get, it's going to go down, or he's going to restore peace, that he's irrelevant in either the restoration of peace or the maintenance of violence in the larger scheme of things that affect the Igbo people as a nation. And I'm going to prove his irrelevance. And we are going to talk about proving his irrelevance by looking at things from different angles. So for those who felt offended that maybe I'm not singing his praise, I'm not a fan, neither am I against. I'm an observer and also a victim of both systems, right? I am a victim of both the activities of those who are saying they're trying to liberate our land. I'm also a victim of the same government that they say they are fighting for oppressing us and all of that. So as a victim as well, I'm also watching and observing. So now, my stake is this: Ekpa's relevance. Excuse me. So, what I want you to understand is this: Simon Ekpa's relevance, either as a traitor or as a warrior, is nothing compared to the weapon of unity. And I'm talking about the unity of the Igbos and indeed other ethnic nations around the Igbos, of the unification of the poor people, the suffering people, the lower class in the society, the weight and effectiveness of their unity under one cause, under one ideology, to politically fight for freedom. Politically fight for freedom. And I want to say this: when you say politically fighting for freedom, we're talking about a unified civil approach. Now, when we are united as the people, when the poor people of Nigeria, when the suffering people of Nigeria, when the disenfranchised people of Nigeria are united under one ideology, under one movement to restore good governance, to ensure liberation, freedom for all ethnic nations in all regions of the country, as long as you belong to that social class that we call the poor, the suffering Nigerians. Look, as long as that unification is achieved, Not even the devil will dare to provoke a unified people into battle. So for those who are thinking, yes, there's no freedom without fighting, and then you now continue to fight in little pockets of agitators and militants and liberators, or how you want to call yourself, you're only making yourself sitting ducks, because your enemies are unified and larger in number. Okay, so under the actual argument of, does Simon Ekpa's arrest restore peace in the southeast or not? The question then is, what is the cause of insecurity in the east? Before Simon Ekpa decided to defend or lead the activities which he is leading for the reasons which he is doing them, before he decided to do it, are we trying to say that there was no insecurity in the southeast? When they did the Ozubulu massacre, was it Simon Ekpa that sent people to do Ozubulu massacre? It was not Ozubulu also where they went into a church, or Navy, somewhere in Anambra State, went into a church and massacred people? How about the different bank robberies in Navy that they do, and many people lose their lives and all of that? Was it also the same person? When Bakassi came into play, was it Simon Ekpa causing the insecurity or the problems that Bakassi came to solve? What am I trying to say? There's been insecurity in the eastern Nigeria, Igbo land, before Simon Ekpa decided to, and his boys decided to engage in the activities which they are engaged in today. Has it maybe increased the activities? Maybe, maybe not. Are they now allocating every single activity of insecurity and violence in the country, attributing it to Simon Ekpa just for convenience sake? Maybe, maybe not, but it might not be far from it. So his activities may be causing some level of insecurity in the political side of things for the people, but that is not the cause of the entire insecurity and violence in eastern Nigeria. Therefore, his arrest is irrelevant to stopping violence or insecurity in eastern Nigeria. And if at all, it might even increase it, as some people will say. Now, you cannot speak about the cause of insecurity in Nigeria without understanding the institutional causes. Because somehow, when we talk about is Simon Ekpa a traitor, is he a criminal, or is he a true freedom fighter, right? Whether or not he is, whichever one he is more or less a fruit or a product of the system. So let us talk about the system in its institutions. And I'm going to divide this conversation of cause of insecurity in the East into three tiers, right? The first one is class conspiracy and resource control. The second one we'll talk about is ignorance and poverty. And then we'll then bring it home talking about, if Simon Ekpa is working for a government, emphasis on a government, because if he's working for a government, it may not necessarily be Nigeria government, because there are international interests in Nigeria. It might as well be Nigerian government if he's working for a government. Under that side of it, we'll also talk about if he's really a freedom fighter and if he's doing it right or wrong. We'll just see how we can look at these things and how all of these things come together to make up insecurity, the cause of insecurity in the East. All right, ignorance and poverty. Ignorance and poverty is what makes the people vulnerable, right? In such a way that any external interest, any external force with a malicious interest can manipulate a people that are ignorant into achieving or carrying out activities that will help them achieve their interests. Now, if some people want insecurity to be in the southeast, eastern Nigeria, Igbo land, They would militarize, weaponize the whole place, sending illegal weapons into different, groups, try to put arms into the hands of people who are to a large extent ignorant, cause problems here and there amongst people, and there is fights and, little issues of, as long as you've introduced guns into an environment that does not produce guns, they have to use it. They don't just keep it, even if it's a toy, they play with it. So they use these things. Those that are using it to steal are stealing. And why are they stealing? Is it the rich man coming down from his car with a gun to steal your phone? No, it's a poor man. And that poor man that is coming out to steal your phone is because the gun has been placed in his hands or has found its way into his hands, rather than job opportunity. Because he has a gun because that's the option given to him, but he might as well be hardworking, or she. It's not just men who are into violence. Poverty makes the people vulnerable, right? In a situation where the society gives the poor, who has been intentionally made poor, no other option of survival other than to feast or fight or eat his fellow man. And then they also support that notion by introducing weapons into the society. They say they're doing election campaigns, they bring people, give them guns. After election campaign, the people go away with the guns, and you don't know it's a systematic way of introducing guns into the society. And this increases insecurity. This happens both in eastern Nigeria and in every other part of Nigeria. So when we're talking about insecurity in Nigeria, it's not just about the Southeast. People would say that the Southeast has been relatively calm compared to other parts of the country, especially northern Nigeria, before now. And that the activities of Simon Ekpa has increased violence and insecurity in the country almost to the scale of the North, or that what is happening in the North is definitely going to be the future of the East if he's left to carry on his activities. And some other people are of the argument that his fight is actually to prevent the insecurity that is in the North from coming into his land. Now, there is a clash of interest. If you're fighting for the good cause, there's a fight going on, blood is being spilled, and in all of these things, we are seeing insecurity and violence. If you're also fighting against your people and all of that, I mean, it's really working out because, like we said, people are paying the ultimate price with their lives. Okay, so now let's go into the other part of it. Class conspiracy and resource control. What is class conspiracy? Our society is divided into two classes. I made this clear in the previous conversation. The upper class, the political class, the capitalist rich class, and the poor people, the disenfranchised people, the suffering people, the common man. Now, who rules and controls the society? The upper class, the political class, and their capitalist friends. This upper class in Nigeria are not just oga at the top that do not have oga of their own. They are mere managers and accountants in this organization called Nigeria. The board of directors and even the CEO are international bodies, especially the crown, that says that Nigeria is its colony or protectorate or whatever it is that they try to lay as their claim over this territory. Now, that is to say that when you come to the social class in Nigeria, we have the upper class working against the lower class, and the upper class not just working for their interest alone, but working for the interest of the international imperial masters who control them and to a very large extent put them in that position where they are as the upper class and the ruling political class of the Nigerian society. Good. Excuse me. So now, I hope you have an understanding of social class divide in a very brief way. Okay, what then is the class conspiracy? The interest of the upper class is to maintain their wealth and affluence and capital, to live their big man life and enjoy the best things of life to the detriment of the poor. In fact, what they do is abuse the human resources by, abusing the poor, by every means necessary. If it's civil service, you put them through that period, you don't pay their salaries, you don't pay them their gratuities, you don't give them good housing, you don't give them good education, you don't give them good medication, you don't give them good tourism. Everything that is meant to be provided for by the system, the people do not get. So they are made to suffer and even made to be impoverished by intentional stupid policies that either cause real or artificial inflation with the intention of impoverishing the people continuously. Right. Remember, we talked about ignorance and poverty, and now we're talking about class conspiracy. Now you're beginning to see that the ignorance and poverty of the people that makes them to contribute to their own insecurity by fighting each other and feasting on each other for survival, right, is being caused directly from the interests of the upper class, the political class, the rich, capitalists in the society. And remember, you find Igbos there, you find Yorubas there, you find Fulani there, you find TV, you find Insecurity, you find Bini. Everybody has there is a political class in every ethnic nation within Nigeria. Okay, so now their interest maintaining their wealth via abuse of the people. What is the thing that makes up their wealth? The money that is generated from the labor of these people and from the sale of natural resources that is found in our land. Good. Resource control. Resource control is the reason why they say oil producing state governors don't need to go to Abuja to collect money because they can already make money in their state. Resource control. Resource control is the reason why they say Lagos State does not always depend on money coming from Abuja to develop the state. They already have their own money. Resource control. Now, as at January this year, we saw a very dark man go to a particular village in Jos where insecurity by terrorists had hit the village. They shot up a lot of people and people ran away from the village. And he was able to discover that this village is rich in mineral resources. So rich in mineral resources that you could find either tin or something on the ground surface. You could just pack up these natural resources on the ground. What more when you dig? How blessed is Africa? You find out that 90% of all the villages in Nigeria, that the people, the indigenous villagers, the indigenous owners of that land have been internally displaced and chased away from their village. You find out that that village has high mineral resources underneath the ground. And the moment they move the people within that village away, they try to make that place so unaccessible and inhabitable. They tell you through the media that the militants have taken over the village. They tell you through the media that imagine the media will tell you that the militants, that the people have been displaced and their homes have been taken over by militants in a country that has army, navy, and air force, and they're still looking for where the militants are or the terrorists are. Now, they militarize these villages, and behind the scene of all this violence and chaos is an unrestricted access to mineral resources, mining, and exploitation. And you know the funny thing, this issue of class conspiracy and resource control is not just peculiar to Nigeria. It's not just peculiar to Southeast. It is the whole of Africa. And we'll get down to that part so that you understand that the insecurity in Nigeria and the insecurity in the Southeast is not far from the insecurity in Cameroon. It's not far from the insecurity in Niger. It's not far from the insecurity in Mali. It's not far from the insecurity in South Africa. It's the same modus operandi of the imperial master and their indigenous stooges. It is their intention and their will to continue to keep the land in perpetual chaos so that they can continue to get away with the excuses that they cannot develop our land because of insecurity. They'll continue to get away with the excuses that they had to sign off unlimited funds because there was state of emergency, because they were fighting, they had to get weapons, make up all sorts of things, distract the people, rule the people with fear, so that while you loot their money and go away and live your big man life, all the people can do is argue and at worst try to even want to be like you. So resource control is another reason for insecurity in the Southeast. Because our land is viable, so many rivers, so many fertile land, so many mineral resources, disclosed and undisclosed. There is a local class interest and international imperial interest to have unlimited control to the resources within the Southeast. And the interest is not just for the Southeast, but for the whole of Africa. I mean, they are not even hiding it when they said that they went to a conference in Berlin some years ago and carved up Africa, and some people took Congo, and some people took, the Belgium guys took Congo, the Portuguese took here, the British took here, the French took. They didn't hide. They're not even hiding. So if you're looking for who are the international interests that want to keep controlling our resources, look to all these African countries that have liberated themselves: Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. What are the ties that they are cutting with their previous colonial, um, criminals? What is it? What are they cutting? Cutting off? What kind of relationship? You hear treaties, and you hear people increasing the price for uranium and all these things. What were the previous prices? Anyways, that's to tell you that Africa, Nigeria, and southeastern Nigeria does not have a healthy relationship between those who are interested in using their natural resources and those who own the natural resources. There's no healthy relationship there. And that is a huge cause for insecurity in the Southeast. Then, let's quickly get down to Simon Ekpa himself. Considering these two things, class interest, resource control, ignorance, and poverty in the Southeast, where then does Simon Ekpa come in? Simon Ekpa is a man who says he's fighting for the freedom of his people, and they formed the Biafran government in exile. Before that, they used to be called autopilot. Autopilot were those that said, since Nnamdi Kanu has been arrested, they will continue to operate on autopilot until he's released. So they are still connected to him as their leader, sort of. But when people started allegedly saying that Simon Ekpa is involved in violence, the Nnamdi Kanu IPOB faction of the Biafran agitators decided to disassociate themselves from Simon Ekpa. So now there's a divide, but the people who are with him all came from IPOB nonetheless. So the question of this, the question then becomes the character of the man, Simon Ekpa. Without wasting much time, there are just two ways you can look at him. Is Simon Ekpa working for a government, or is he really fighting for freedom? You have to consider both options. And this is holistic conversation. Do well to watch our other series. We've talked about Ordinala, we've talked about the approach to politics and attitude the people should have towards politics and all of that. So yeah, and so many more interesting topics to come. So yeah, but back to the matter, the character of Simon Ekpa. Could he be working for a government? Now, when we talk about class conspiracy, when we talk about class interest, the interest of the upper class and the interest of the imperialists, the international bodies, right? That is where you have a range of possibilities and a vast array of governments that EPA could be working for. Remember, we are trying to just go down a path. We're not saying he does work for this. We are saying could be. Okay, it's like a theory. If he is working for a foreign government, what could be the interest of that foreign government? Are they trying to do what you call a regime change? Are they just trying to sell their weapons because they manufacture guns? Are they trying to just destabilize a region? And if they want to destabilize a region, what is the reason why they would want to destabilize a region? For the resources. There is no other reason why they destabilize regions in Africa, if not to continue to steal gold, lithium, uranium, anything. They just want to get it in an unfair and unhealthy manner. That could be the interest of any government or any international body, imperialist, neo-colonialist, that Simon Ekpa could be working for, if he is working for a government. If he were to even be working for Nigeria government, that would be a very genius card. That would be a very genius move to have their own agents work like he's working against them, but in actual terms, they are working together to achieve one thing: high level of insecurity, fear, division, and internal displacement in the eastern region, to the aim of achieving what? Resource control. So could he be working for a government? If he's working for a government, that means his arrest is just a it's just another scene in their drama. They're just playing with the mindset of the people. At the end of the day, if he's working for a government, whether Nigerian or international, taking him out of the scene does not stop the intention of that government or the activities of that government, be it Nigeria or international. Therefore, the activities that made them to put him, the interests that made them to put him in power, is still there, will remain there, whether he's released, whether he's arrested, whether he was free or not. Are you seeing his irrelevance? Even if he were to be anything agent. Now, how about if he's really a freedom fighter? How about if he's really a freedom fighter and he's leading an army that is fighting back against the enemy? Who is the enemy? They would say in this case, the enemy is the Nigerian government and the Nigerian soldiers. What would make him in the first place take up arms to fight the Nigerian army, the Nigerian government? Is he fighting them unprovoked? Is he the aggressor? If he's really a warrior, if he were to really be a freedom fighter. If we are to just briefly recount the activities that has been going on in Nigeria, we can categorically say in all truth and honesty, that before the rise of Simon Ekpa, in the days of Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB agitation and peaceful protests around different parts of eastern Nigeria, that they carried no other weapon than the flag. They had nothing else on them but flags and songs, but they were engaged in different places. Obibo, Aba, different parts of eastern Nigeria. They were engaged with guns and violence from the government and their zombie army. Are we going to call it extrajudicial killing? What are we going to call it? Where the Nigerian army, or as they would like to put it, men in Nigerian military uniform, goodness me, would allegedly come out and shoot down at protesters. And I use the word allegedly so that they wouldn't say that I am saying anything directly to the Nigerian army. But there are videos out there that can let you see things for yourself, and there are families out there that have experienced the loss of their loved ones. But now to tell you again that the military response of shooting down protesters is not peculiar to the Igbo. The same thing happened to NSAS protesters, and that one was in the One Nigeria setting. So the same treatment that they would give any protester, no matter what you're protesting for, is the same treatment that they are giving you, Biafran protester, or they gave the Biafran protesters. The Biafran protesters issue may be more sensitive because of what they stand for, but the enemy is still the enemy, and the enemy is still doing what the enemy is doing. So, due to the incessant extrajudicial killing of people of eastern Nigeria, and especially those who are clamoring for the restoration of Biafra, or the implementation of certain terms and conditions in order for them to drop the agitation, right? They were met with violence and extrajudicial killing. And men like Simon Ekpa are saying that they have come up to fight against the system that constantly kills their people. He's saying this on the grounds that there's no other option but to fight. And that if you're not fighting, and those who are of this opinion believe that if you're not of this opinion, you're wrong. I'm here to tell you, first of all, that if he is really a freedom fighter, he does not have the capacity. When I say him and all the little fractions of liberation fighters within Eastern Nigeria, they lack the capacity in terms of numbers and resources to overwhelm the enemy in battle, or their enemy in battle, because of the numbers and access to resources that the enemy has. That being and I'm happy for anybody to prove me wrong, that any liberation group in southeastern Nigeria, or all of them put together, are more in numbers and have more access to resources to engage and overwhelm and win their enemies. As we speak, I don't think so. That being the case, I do not think engaging in battle in a manner that would further endanger your people that you are saying you're fighting to protect. There's no need to engage in a battle that would further endanger your people that you're claiming to protect. Why am I saying this? For people say, what am I? I've heard a lot of calls, I've gotten a lot of calls, people telling me things, that others are fighting. See, I'm in pain that people of Eastern extract are losing their lives in vain, because that is not the way to go. I'll give you an example. Now, let us say in theory that 20 men of a liberation movement, the liberation fighters, 20 of them go to a checkpoint and overwhelm 3 military soldiers. They overwhelm these soldiers, and then they make videos of their bodies and all of that and post it online. Good. When they post it online, what are people saying? Hey, Southeast is on fire. They can't come down to Southeast. Look at what is going on. Soldiers are being shot down on the roadside, and all this and all that. That is going on in the media. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army is bearing a loss. What happens next? These 20 liberation fighters disappear into the bush. The Nigerian army comes back. They don't go after these 20 soldiers. They face the villagers and destroy 50 farms, destroy 100 houses, burn down markets, burn down shops, shoot sporadically at the villagers in the place where this happened. Now, for the 3 soldiers that were overwhelmed, properties and lives by the hundreds are lost. While the Nigerian army or the military is doing this activity, those 20 liberation fighters will be in the bush listening to the sound of the gunshots, and sometimes recording as helicopters are flying to go and bomb down those villages where they overwhelm those military people. When they went, they will not come out to fight, though. They won't come out to engage the army while the army is doing the retaliation. When the army has ravaged that village and gone, they will now come out with phone and start videoing the fire of the village on fire. They'll video the farms, they'll video the burning market, video the burning houses. And while they are videoing it, what you'll be hearing is international community come and see you. See when they've started, see what the Nigerian government is doing to our people. When they finish doing this, when we retaliate, nobody should stop us. When we retaliate, nobody should stop us. When we rise, I thought you've already risen. Which one is when we rise again? Have you seen it? If you want to fight with somebody, the person slap you, you tell the person, are you slapping me? The person slap you again, you say, did you just slap me? The person blow you, you say, are you see me? You just blow. The person blow me, you say, blow me again. The person blow you again, you say, you see me? Oh God, you're not ready to fight. You're just standing there, you got teeth will come out, finish. And that is what is happening. Our people, our youth are going down by the day unnecessarily. We're not ready to do this thing in this manner, and there are so many other ways, You're calling on the international community. What will international community come and do when you finish videoing your villages that the army has ravaged because of the activities of the few? And then you now come and say that we the people should be angry, that we are in a country that the army is not fighting those who are coming to fight them, that they are coming to fight the people instead. Did we not know that is the kind of government and kind of army we have before you decided to go and start provoking them in the first place to do the same thing that you know that they will do, and you're not ready to stop them? Abi, if you're ready to stop them, why are they still in their barracks? Why are barracks still existing in eastern Nigeria if these people are ready to take over eastern Nigeria? God, don't tell me rubbish. Don't tell me you cannot. Even if there is a need to fight, you must not fight premature. You must not fight unprepared. If you want to go and engage in sports, you prepare. If you want to go and engage in a competition exam, you read, you prepare. So some people are of the opinion that let these people start the fight, let other people join them. Or maybe when these ones have become martyrs, people will learn from them. You're not going to be a martyr, you're just going to be a victim, because every Igbo person that belongs to the lower class in the society is feeling the brunt and the pain of the Nigerian system. The solution is not for a few of us to pick up arms and engage with this system, because they stand chances of being overwhelmed, and the rest of the people who are not picking up arms stand the chances of being killed unnecessarily. Why? Because the system is not a civil system, it's a dictatorship in disguise. It is an oppressive government wearing the cloak of democracy. So you've got to engage them differently. Therefore, if Ekpa were to be a real freedom fighter, he is just like a soldier who is laying in ambush with his fellow soldiers to attack the enemy. And while the enemy is coming and everybody is laying down quietly waiting for the enemy to get to the point where they'll capture them, this soldier stands up and starts shouting, "Come over here, we'll kill you. Come over here, I'm here." You've just blown the cover of your people. You don't go in when your people are still in ambush position, waiting to capture the enemy. If the Igbo suffering people want to take over leadership and determine their own posterity as a people and development as a people, it is not by little fractions of liberation fighters that are largely fighting against each other even before fighting the common enemy. As long as there is no unity, as long as there is division amongst you, the enemy, who has a lot of money and resources, would find a way to turn people against the other and stagnate that movement. And what will continue to happen? Perpetual poverty, perpetual violence, perpetual insecurity, whether Simon Ekpa is in custody or not. Do you see his irrelevance to the Igbo problem? Similarities across Africa. We've seen Amazonia. We've seen the war going on in Amazonia. Amazonia versus Cameroon. I can categorically tell you that I've spoken with a lot of Amazonians, and they are telling me that there is not just one single Amazonian liberation fighting, and that there are different groups, and some of them do not agree with the other. The Amazonia cause might also be genuine, the same way you say the marginalization and the pain and the cries of the Igbos or the Biafran agitators are real. Yeah, but what if this class, political class, this capitalist class with all of their money and resources, what if, as they are intentionally oppressing you with one hand, on the other hand, they are intentionally pushing you to the point where you have no other option but to fight? Not because they believe that if you fight, you will win, but because they feel that if you're just sitting down in your house and they come and kill you, it will just make their badness look too bad. So they need you to give them a reason to continue to attack you with violence and constantly depopulate your people and continuously take over your resources. Just think about that for a second. The unwarranted killing of Biafran agitators or Biafran protesters before anybody who was a Biafran agitator picked up a weapon. The unwarranted killing of these people, what if it was an intentional provocation to make these people pick up arms so that they can amplify the killing of these same people, which is what has played out, or which is what is playing out. As some of these Biafran agitators picked up arms to defend themselves, the killing of these people, of these Biafran agitators and their people, our fellow Igbos, increased. Only reason why this thing keeps going on, they keep giving the excuse. Biafra agitation or Biafra agitators are now violent. They keep bringing, and then you have the ones that are saying that they are not violent, but then that the activities of those that are violent is marring the image of the movement. They are just sowing seeds of confusion and division. It's happening in Amazonia. Burkina Faso. I think there's one other country. The countries where the men from the military have taken over with a Pan-African ideology to unify that region and liberate their people. They are constantly fighting terrorists or terrorism. Who is sponsoring this terrorism in Africa, in all these African countries? People are saying Fulani headsmen, Fulani headsmen. To the best of my knowledge, Fulani headsmen and bandits and terrorists do not have the capacity to manufacture the kind of guns that they are wielding. So who is sponsoring it? Class conspiracy, class interest. That is what is sponsoring it. Why is all of this terrorism and insecurity being sponsored and perpetrated? To continue to sell the business of weapon production and also to continue the venture of resource control and don't even know the word to use to qualify the evil. When we call it resource control, it seems like it's such a nice thing. So the insecurity, in a nutshell, the insecurity in Nigeria and in Africa, the insecurity in Eastern Nigeria and in Nigeria is not far from the same, and the insecurity in all other parts of Africa is being caused by one and the same class of interests, stemming forth from the international realm, be it the Middle East or Europe or America. It comes from there into Africa, and it is facilitated by the political class of Africa. So, international interest is the reason why you find a lot of insecurity in so many parts of Africa. International interest is one of the reasons that spark up the local conflicts in so many parts of Africa. Because it is even an international interest that established this country called Nigeria. It was also international interests that kept the massacre and genocide against the Igbos ongoing for 3 years. It is still international interests that would desire for Igbo communities to be internally displaced within Nigeria so that their lands and villages can be laid unoccupied for foreign mercenaries and miners to come in and take advantage of the place. So we are coming to the end of, what I'm trying to say to you all, what I'm trying to prove to you all, the irrelevance of Simon Ekpa in the Igbo problem, thereby making his arrest neither a win nor a loss for Biafra or the Igbos. International interest expresses itself in 3 ways, 3 major ways. You have regime change, you have region destabilization, and then you have peacekeeping. And I'll just briefly tell you that we've seen a lot of presidents go down because they do not serve the interest of the international neo-colonialists and imperialists who have a negative political interest in their country. They take them out. If you want examples of this, research on it. There are governments that say that they are democratic, but they are very, very notorious for regime change. It's not just one government. It's not just one particular international government. So they do this, their regime change. So how do they do it? They sponsor an opposition to the current regime in power, sponsor them with resources and weapons and everything, and intelligence information to guide them towards achieving a regime change and installing a president or a leader or a ruler, usurper, that will serve the interest of this international body in his country. Region destabilization. If you look at the Congo, we see more than 7 million people in IDP camp in Congo. Where are their villages? What are they running away from? While they are in that camp, they still go out every day to illegal mines to go and find a living by being subjected to slavery in their own land. We read about people in the Congo's hands being cut off when they are not able to provide a lot of rubber. And we think the problems of the Congo is just history. The problems of the Congo is still current affairs. And the same thing going on in the Congo is still going on in many parts of northern Nigeria, where you have illegal mining of gold and other resources in villages that the people have been driven away from. Somewhere the people still living. So, if they happen for Sudan, if they happen for Nigeria, if they happen for Congo, maybe only Benin Curtis Day. If they happen everywhere, regional destabilization. For what? Resource control. Peacekeeping. Hey, peacekeeping. Another warfare in disguise. The international community will say that they are sending in a set of soldiers to go and keep peace. Meanwhile, those ones are mercenaries coming there to make sure that the international interest that started up that conflict is actually actualized and achieved. They come there and in a subtle manner try to peacekeeping is also one of the disguise of the international community and international interest in perpetuating instability, insecurity, and violence. And this interest stemming from the international body down to Nigeria's political class, down to the Igbo political class, is the reason for insecurity and violence and terrorism in eastern Nigeria in Igbo, in Igbo land. Therefore, with this submission of mine, Simon Ekpa's arrest is irrelevant because the man himself is irrelevant to the entire struggle of the Igbo people. If not anything, his activities as a freedom fighter, if he is one, is adding more to the people's insecurity because he's fighting is doomed to have a high level of casualty if at all it will win. And if you claim to love your people, if you claim to love your people and you're protecting them from wolves that are coming to eat them, you will not expose them to a high level of danger to be eaten by more wolves just to give you a chance to kill a few wolves. Therefore, if he's not even working, if he's working against the people, he is just still an agent of the system. Him being there, him being taken out, does not stop the interest of that system. And we as a people need to stop looking at the symptoms, at the fruits of the system, and look at the system itself. And if you look at the system itself, and if you want to engage with the system itself, then the Igbos cannot do this in isolation. They can't do it by themselves. They need their brothers and sisters in Benin, in Delta, in River State, in Bayelsa, in Cross River, in Uyo, and every other part of Nigeria. What do you call it? Middle Belt, the entire Middle Belt region, even up to Kaduna and Sokoto. They need the suffering masses there to understand that we are not enemies of each other. We are victims of the same political system that has representatives from our village participating there. We are one people. We've always existed as one. We have our individual differences, which makes us unique and beautiful as multifaceted, multicolored, multicultural, multilingual people. But we are one people. We are one people. If we can unite in the social space, unite in music, unite in film, unite in the classroom, we can unite politically and create a people-based political movement, political party, a people-based political party, a people-based political understanding and trust. That way, we can engage this system in a radical political manner that will be too overwhelming for them to engage with violence. And when we take over the government, we can then restore dignity to every ethnic nation within this contraption called Nigeria. People are talking about regional government. People are also talking about ethnic national government and ethnic national federation. These are political ideologies and alternatives. Now, for those dogged Biafrans that say they are Biafrans, they are not Nigerians, they are Biafrans. If you're Igbo, you're not Biafran, you're a Fulefu, you're this, you're that, you're that. And I'm going to end with this. Let me put it to you. Even the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has his terms and conditions which he has given to the Nigerian government or to any politician that cares to listen to him, that if they meet these conditions, he will drop the Biafran agitation. What will you do when if that were to happen? For example, he talked about something like maybe opening seaports in the east, making more federal political infrastructure, or whatever it is. He gave some certain things, even amendment of the constitution, I think, and all that. If these conditions are met for him to drop the Biafran agitation, what will you, dogged Biafran, do at that point? Will you now accept Nigeria as your country? So you accept Nigeria as your country if they start treating you well. So the problem is that you're not being treated well. Now, declaring yourself as Biafran is not the only way to ensure that you are treated well. If declaring yourself now, Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the Biafran ideology or the Biafran identity. But the manner and approach with which you go about it, if you're going to endanger yourself and the next person around you, then it is a toxic approach. And if I do not agree with you today, and you say I am a fool to be called a Nigerian, when they now meet your demands for you to drop your agitation, will you also be a fool to be called a Nigerian at that point? So, in order to restore the dignity, in order to create the political development that the Eastern Nigeria so deserve, Eastern Nigerians need to engage with the system as a whole, not as a fraction. Because if our fellow poor people from other ethnic nations within Nigeria are against us, how are we going to exist as a neighboring country that is living surrounded by people who are against us? So you see that there is a need for a political discussion and political unification amongst the poor people of Nigeria. And I will say, like I would always say, let love lead in this journey of political unification. Let love lead, because I know we all have scars of betrayal and pain. We all have trauma from betrayal, but we need to understand that we, the poor, that have hurt each other, have merely been instruments in the hands of the political class that actually seek to divide us and subjugate us and rule us in perpetual fear, poverty, and ignorance. We need to unify to save ourselves, irrespective of if Ekpa is part of this fight or not, irrespective if Nnamdi Kanu is alive to be a part of this fight or not, if he's free to be a part of this fight or not. We have to do it for ourselves. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to each other. Us Igbos, us current Nigerians, us Africans, we the poor, we the suffering, we do need to unite. We do need to understand ourselves and protect our own class interests. And that way, victory is assured. So, with that said, once again, I say this to you. Ekpa's relevance, whether traitor or warrior, is nothing compared to the weapon of unity, the unity of the people, the suffering people. Is nothing compared to the weapon of unity under one ethnic, national, political understanding, union, and movement. And when that unification is achieved, when the people come forth to appoint their own representatives who would represent their own will and not the manifesto of their representatives, when they come forth to install those people in a due political process, not even the devil will dare to push a unified people into battle. So fear not, will they steal your mandate or what not? Unify first. Become one first. Then watch your enemies divide, and how would I put it? They will divide and dissolve before you. Thank you for joining me in this second session of Simon Ekpa's arrest being relevant, being a win or loss to the Biafran people. Do continue to engage with your comments, your thoughts. I'm happy to hear whatever it is you have to say. And if you do not like what I've got to say, if I do not, I'm not paid by anybody to do anything. I'm here to express my view as a victim of both the Biafran agitating fighters and the Nigerian government, and also as an observer of these activities, as somebody who happens to come from the region and these things are happening within my environment. So that's my opinion. I'd like to hear what you've got to say in the comment section. Like, our content, subscribe to my channel. This is Holistic Conversations, where we talk about things from different angles. We don't just look at things from one perspective, and we don't just think within the box. We don't even think outside the box. We destroy the box and just think free. So yeah, so this is Holistic Conversations. Until our next session, see you. Peace out.